Justice League of America issue 1, written by Steve Orlando and art by Ivan Reis. This, of course, is the actual issue 1. We had the Rebirth issue 2 weeks ago, and this... Now, I enjoyed this, and I know that Connor's about to be negative, so
I'm going to be fairly negative, though. I'm not going to just shit on it.
Because I like the team, and my favourite stuff in this issue is probably the first batch of pages where it's just the different teammates, often like pairs, having conversations. The problem with this issue, and potentially this entire first arc, is it's a very, very generic, typical first Justice League arc, where generic villain shows up, it's like, oh, we're actually here to save you all because this Earth is doomed, but we will do it so with rule and fascism, bow to us, mere humans, and the Justice League team have to show up and fight them, and that's basically the issue.
That's one of my biggest problems with this book. It feels so average in that sense.
I think the plot's definitely like that, yeah. I would agree with that.
But I don't connect to any of the characters enough to care. Like I haven't seen enough of any of them to really care about anyone or any interactions.
It's really weird because I think it's a shame that they started with an arc like this, but at the same time, it's also a very typical arc to start with.
It is, and that's kind of is a big problem that I'm having. It is so typical. It's, oh, look, there's an enemy and we don't know how to work together yet, but well, by the end we'll be a proper team.
However, I do see some potential, depending on how... Because obviously it ends with the main bad guy's about to kill Ryan Choi.
Yeah.
Because he wants to make an example. And it ends with the cliffhanger of Batman saying, no, if you want to make an example, take me. And that's the end. So, the potential here is that if the villains do take Batman, right, and the rest of the team have to learn to work together without him, they have to do it on their own, I can see that being quite interesting.
It could. The alternative problem is it'll just feel like Batman will get out of it, and you know like what I mean. He'll just be like, okay, well, I'm going to get out of this, and then the team will be trying, but it won't ultimately matter because Batman's like, I've got it covered.
Maybe that wouldn't bother me that much.
Bother me a little bit. Also, this is not in anything to do with this issue in particular, but I never noticed how weird his rebirth gloves were until that final page with all the ridges on. I'd never seen them up close like that. I don't think.
All right.
It just stood out as weird. No, that's not a knock against this issue though.
But regardless of how the rest of this arc goes, what it kind of reminds me of, I say it doesn't get more interesting like I just said it would, where it's the rest of the team on their own try to figure out how to come together and actually fight a threat. It reminds me a lot of the first arc of Green Lanterns, where the plot was kind of whatever, and it was just kind of like, yeah, let's just get through this so we can get to the meat that we want to get to. And Green Lanterns was a book where once it actually get past that first arc, we all ended up liking it a lot more.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like, and I get why they don't do this with issue 1s, but I kind of wish they did. I wish issue 1s were less plot heavy and were more character building.
I think it's something that you can get away with a typical Justice League book because you know who all the characters are. But when you've got something like this where they're mostly small-time characters who a lot of people won't know, I need to care about them as people, as a team, before any sort of plot like this. Yeah, I find it really hard to care about anything that's going on when I don't care about any of the characters as a team.
They've started with too big a villain plot to start off with. They should have started with something smaller, and I do agree with that. That said, I don't have as much problems with it as you do. I found it, because of that, I found it really hard to care about anything. I found it not particularly enjoyable because it was so typical and by the numbers. I like the characters more than you do, though. Some of the banter between them I was getting kind of into. I don't know. I feel like you're being just... Harsh isn't the right word. You're maybe just...
Perhaps. I just feel like 2 issues in, I haven't really gotten anything out of it yet. I've not enjoyed anything particularly. I thought they've both been fine, but not particularly good. I like the Rebirth issue more than you did, definitely. Oh, you did? Yeah. I like the Rebirth issue more than this one. See, I put them both on a similar level, where they both have similar problems for me, of they're very typical and not doing anything interesting. This might sound crazy to some people, but I could have used more of the Rebirth issue for a while before they introduced plots like this. Well, see, I would agree with that, because the reason I was against a lot of the Rebirth was it just felt like, oh, let's collect everyone, because we have to do that, and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, if it was... I think this issue, really, what they should have done after that Rebirth issue is have an entire issue set in that base with just the teams
like.
Well, yeah, because
being
the
in
only
room.
bit of this I did actually like was Atom and Frost in
Yeah, I like
the
that scene.
Sanctuary.
Yeah.
That was the only part that I really liked. Everything else, eh,
I don't
it
have a
just didn't,
problem
it
with
just
the
didn't
rest of
really.
it. It just
Well, that's the thing. I didn't necessarily have problems with it, but none of it was doing anything for me to make me care about anything. I wasn't enjoying it as I was reading it. I was just reading it, and that's a problem for me.
you say that as if that feeling wouldn't be a problem for someone else.
Well, I don't know. There's certain books where you can kind of just read through it and it's mind numbing and that's fine. But when it's a new book, it's a number one issue. That is a problem.
I just all I'll say is it has only been 2 issues, and it does remind me a lot of Green Lanterns. I feel like there's a lot of potential in here to grow,
Perhaps.
and I think you're being a touch dismissive. Is really what I
Maybe.
feel here. I feel like you're just being a touch dismissive.
Maybe. But after 2 issues, I'm not sure I really care to read that much more. Like I don't know if I want to at this point.
Like, obviously you can feel that, because obviously some books are just terrible from issue 1. Like, after 1 issue of Red Hood, I knew I didn't want to read any more Red Hood, and that's fine. But I feel like nothing, I don't feel like anything in here was remotely, I don't think anything here was bad. And therefore, I don't think anything's bad enough to want to dump it after 2 issues, is the way I'm seeing it.
I get that, but for me, I'm so apathetic after 2 issues that it feels like a time sink that I have to. It feels like, oh, this is going to be a chore for me to read the remaining 5 issues of this.
Oh, I
arc.
definitely didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like a short read. I think it read well enough. I think the characters are likable enough. It didn't blow me away. It won't be appearing on my top 5 of the week certainly, because it doesn't do
I don't
anything
mean
super
chore as
exciting.
in, oh, it's bad to read. I just mean this is a good, 15-minute chunk of my reading time that I have to dedicate to this that I'm not going to enjoy. That's how I feel at the minute.
Yeah, but I don't feel that is what I'm saying. I don't feel
Yeah.
that. I don't feel that remotely negative. I don't feel that excited about it either, because like I say, the plot is very typical. It's very
Yeah.
generic villains show up, and because it feels a little bit reminiscent of Morrison's JLA, his first arc in that, where these new heroes show up and they claim to be heroes and they're going to help the Earth. It's not the exact same thing, but it reminded me of that
Yeah, I get that.
in some ways, because they're here to save us. But
Art was very nice, though.
oh, that was great. Art was great, and unlike you, I did enjoy most of the character stuff. I think some of Ryan Choi's banter with everyone's quite good. I like Killer Frost. Still waiting to get Lobo to be justified, given that Batman's all, this is the team of relatable humans.
I wasn't getting that at all. Like, because he brought it up again.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Explain Lobo. Someone ask him, Canary, you're smart. Ask him why Lobo.
I would go as far as to say the Ray as well, please. You've got a dude who's basically looks like he's on fire, kind of. With the light.
Well, no, see, I can buy that, because it's not about actually being, because he was human. He started human,
Well,
and
yeah.
he's relatable because he went through a lot of bad stuff. Like,
To us, sure, because we know that. But Batman's reasoning is he wants the public to see this relatable team. Does he look relatable to the public?
It depends. Will he talk to them? Will he let them speak to the public?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine so. I mean, he might speak to them, but not in his in-depth way to he's not going to tell them his life story, is he?
Well, no, but like if he gets to speak to them, and if he gets his personality across, and they see that he's not some spooky ghost.
But do people not feel that about Superman?
Well, yeah, but he's still a god who can lift up buildings. Like, I get his logic isn't completely sound, but I still understand it, at least from a writing perspective, why the other ones are all there. Lobo's the only one that I don't get.
Yeah, Lobo's far worse a problem for it than the Ray. Don't get me wrong.
Because the Ray does have a very human story. He's had a
He
really
does, which is
shitty life. He was mistreated by his parents and everything.
and that's the thing. I can appreciate that from a reader's perspective, but as an in-story Batman putting that to the public, I don't buy it.
Well, we didn't get to see quite a lot of what Ray's been doing since, because we've seen his Rebirth issue, how he sort of came into the public eye. We don't really know what he's been doing since then. Maybe all the stuff that he's been doing, all those people he's been saving, maybe it's been very social, down to earth, like saving the little guy.
That's fair.
That kind of thing.
I'd like them to address this though. at some
maybe
point.
They will. Maybe it'll be like Detective, and they'll all get an arc where they're kind of the focus, and we'll get into them a little bit more.
Oh yeah, I can appreciate it. I just feel like someone does need to speak to Batman about this. Like you said, Canary probably.
Canary feels right because A, she's smart, but B, she's also not intimidated by him the way that the rest of them probably are.
I feel it'll either be Canary or Vixen.
Yeah, maybe Vixen.
But I feel like someone needs to call him out and go, look, cut the shit, give us the truth.
Well, they'll wait until Lobo does something a bit outrageous, and it'll come up as an argument. It's like why is Lobo even here? We're supposed to be relatable, and you've got this alien planet-killing douchebag.
It's really not helping his case, is it?
But no, so just to wrap up my thoughts on GLA issue 1. I thought it was I thought it was an enjoyable read. I don't regret reading it. I thought it went by quickly. Art was really nice. Like the characters. The plot is just very. The plot's my only issue. I like the characters more than you do. The plot's the one thing that I agree is very typical and standard and forgettable.
For me, they haven't done enough to make me care about the characters, but we'll see. We'll see how I feel.
Have an open heart, Connor.
We'll see. How did Matt feel about this?
How did Matt feel about it? That's interesting.
Because he was kind of more on my side with the Rebirth issue.
This is interesting. Okay, it says, wish it was better.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if that falls with me or you.
It could go either way still.
It could, because I still had problems. Because I would agree with that. I wish it was better too.
I definitely wish it was better. I mean, we can both agree on that sentiment.
But then he actually says something that goes against me to a point, because he says, and not in the way you think it does, he says, Lord Havoc and the Extremists is as interesting as the villains. I don't know if I agree with that. I think they're pretty bland, and
I think they're very typical. Yeah. Like, that was such a problem for me.
And he says, but it still feels incomplete. And okay, fair, but it's interesting that he points out the villains as one of the positives he has.
It's a bit weird. It is interesting that he has such a different viewpoint on it to us, isn't it?
Yeah.